Good morning and welcome to Unusual Activity powered by FinancialJuice.com with George Avedon and Milton Marmonides. Thank you for joining us this morning. Certainly, this 19th of December 2014, Friday, is certainly not short of news on the whole, but just keep in mind that we are approaching the holiday season here. We have the ES futures higher by 3.75 at 2063.75. We have oil higher by $1.50 at $55.86. We'll dive into the technicals in a little bit. Gold is higher by $2.30 at $1,197.30. We have the dollar, the DXY, the dollar versus 10 other currencies index at 89.272, higher by 0.048 now. So that clearly can have an impact on the overall markets. We've discussed that at some points. We have the oil responding to the dollar negatively, where if it's a stronger dollar, we have an inflection on oil and gold. We are seeing oil higher this morning, so again, sentiment may change, the play may change on a day-to-day, and that's something that we're monitoring rather closely. So what we'd like to do is run through the numbers we had yesterday. If you recall, yesterday's information is we had the S&P 500 higher by 2.4%, and really a positive a positive overall day to the markets. And we had the S&P finish at 2061.23, so very strong over the last 2 days, higher by 2.4%. Dow Jones higher by excuse me, 2.43% at 17,778.15. Nasdaq higher by 2.24% at 4748, and so clearly a strong finish to the markets all around, and that's something. And going into this, so clearly a positive tone going into the weekend, going into the 2 holiday weeks, both in Christmas and New Year's, and we need to bring up this notion that as the markets are coming into this Friday, traders will most likely be at least lightening up on their positions. Oil and various other positions, we certainly had a lot of volatility lately. The ES basically came back to what we were saying on a daily basis. We'll get into the technicals in a moment. So clearly we're anticipating a slower than normal, even a normal Friday, especially in the afternoon. So just be wary as we're going through this information. Most traders are either not in today on Friday, or they're going to leave in the second half of the day. Remember, holiday week is coming. The intention, from what we understand, is really not to have much volatility within the next 2 weeks. And that's something we're very keen on. And as we hear things, we'll definitely post things into Unusual Activity, the app there. So one of the things that we're always keeping an eye on, certainly situations in the Middle East, certainly from a geopolitical, ISIL, very important here. A U.S. military official commented on the ISIL situation, indicating that it could last for more than or up to 3 years in terms of the airstrikes, in terms of military activity to battle ISIS and ISIL, excuse me, and that's something that we're keeping an eye on. Also, with respect to oil prices, certainly oil at $56.14. The response from Russia. So really, the core themes here going into 2015 is oil. Certainly, we had the interesting events out of North Korea with respect to the Sony hacking. We also will also have that review in terms of Yellen's testimony. A little bit of muddy there with respect to economic indicators, indicating where we are with respect to where they're anticipating inflation to be, where they're anticipating the where they're anticipating the rates to be. So again, a little bit of muddy waters there, and that it increases the conversation for opinions. It increases the opportunity to maybe wager a bet in one way or another. So again, it's interesting that the Fed always does this, and I think that's very poignant. And that's, they want to be transparent. At the same time, they really haven't mentioned anything specific, any specific targets. We're going to review. They mentioned patience and so forth. So that's something to really keep in mind. This morning, we're waiting on the Atlanta Fed at 10 o'clock. Also, Charles Evans is speaking at 10. Kansas City Fed Manufacturing Index at 11 a.m. and also we have another Fed speaker at 12:30 p.m. And as they're speaking, should we hear anything of value, we'll certainly post that into the unusual activity app. So keep an eye on keep an eye on the app. Keep an eye on what information is coming out, and we'll certainly post things in there. Just as a FOMC recap, we posted this up yesterday as well, but it's really important to mention here, they withdrew considerable time, but they put in patient. Again, so that typically mutters the water. No mention of global risks or Russia. Quote-unquote monetary policy will still be accommodative for a long time. They want to really, the conversation from the Fed and really the reaction from the stock market, as you saw in the last few days, rather interesting volatility. If you remember from Tuesday, we had a 100-point turnaround, and then Wednesday, a nice rebound, and then yesterday's really positive day all day yesterday. In the day. So clearly the FOMC, the Fed, really does not want to startle the markets, really does not want to upset the markets at this point heading into the holiday season, wanted to finish 2014 perhaps on a positive note. We've seen the volatility in oil. They did not mention oil, they did not mention global risk, but they also want to undershoot unemployment. They want to see unemployment really cause a bit of an inflation rise, and that's what it seems as though that's where they're going, and that's something to keep in mind. Let's run through Asia and Europe quickly. We have the Nikkei overnight higher at higher by 2.39%, Hang Seng higher by 1.25%. And Shanghai higher by 1.67%. In Europe, we have the FTSE higher by 0.27%, CAC in Paris lower by 0.87%, and the DAX in Germany lower by 0.99%. IBEX in Spain is lower by 1.17%. Interesting here. Want to keep an eye on this euro as the dollar increases. Euro still be below that 1.23 level, and that's something we want to keep an eye on. Right, so that's currently at 1.2294 as we're monitoring these markets. Here you have with respect to oil. Let's run through the commodities, energy and raw materials first. Then we'll discuss specific oils here. Um, let's see here. We have crude oil again higher by $1.68 at $56.04. Gasoline higher by 0.0293 at 1.6. I'm sorry, 1.5558. Natural gas lower by 0.121, higher at 3.521. Heating oil higher by 0.0303 at 1.9690. Interesting enough, just as an anecdote, certainly if you take a look at heating oil within the last if you pull up a daily chart on it, we'll pull it up here quickly just to showcase this just briefly here. We have, I'll pull up a daily chart, folks. And you see here really a precipitous decline in heating oil. Just as an anecdote, in the Northeast, it's been a relatively warmer, not warmer, but relatively tame start to the cold season here in the Northeast. We'll see where things go. But again, keep in mind, Northeast is a really large consumer of heating oil. And that I think also has an impact. So keep that in mind. Let's continue to go through the commodities, energy, and raw materials here. We have, let's see, gold at higher by $2.80 at 1197.60. We have silver higher by 0.001 at $15.94. We have platinum higher by $1.30 at $1,198.40, and cocoa lower by 2 at $29.63. We have the 5-year. Let's get into rates a little bit. We have the 5-year 1.654, 10-year at 2.202. And we have the 30-year at 2.820. Remember, the 5-year really shot up yesterday. We were at around a 1.52. We came back over that 1.6 yield in the 5-year, and I think that's rather critical here. So let's go through some of the more. If we take a look at the ES, certainly we came back from those lows. And we want to keep an eye on this 2050 level. We are looking at 2079. That's the all-time high. We're about 14 points away from there. So we'll see if we reach that either today or within the next excuse me. We'll see if we reach that within the next few days as we're heading into the perhaps a Santa Claus rally and going into the next couple of weeks here. Also, on crude oil, certainly very similar story in crude oil. We want to keep an eye on that 55 level. Certainly, it's been a level yesterday, and that's something we want to keep an eye on as really gyrations in crude really are around. So that's something that we really want to keep an eye on. Currently at $56. We want to see if it can perhaps maintain a bottom here at the 55 level, and if it can come up to that 60 level. So I think should that happen, we may be forming a bottom in this crude. So that's from a purely technical perspective. That's something we can take a look at. Also keep in mind those shorters and those traders in crude that were short coming into this, we may see a little bit of a short covering. If we see some short covering, if the bulls come out a little bit on crude, we could see a little bit of what's commonly referred to as a short squeeze. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on. In the VIX, certainly we had a rather impressive volatility within the last few days in the VIX. We're back up. We're back down to this Yesterday finished at right around that 1681 level. We want to keep an eye on this 18 down to 16. Should any of those break, if it breaks on the 16, we could come into that 15, 14 level. Certainly, that's rather important here, and certainly with the market being higher, we want to make sure. Certainly, there will be an inflection on the VIX. On the gold, certainly that 1200 range, folks. We've been mentioning it over and over again, and that's something that we really, really want to keep an eye on from a technical perspective. It's just attracted to that 1200 range, so again, want to keep an eye on. In oil names, we have it here. These are the oil ETFs that we really want to keep an eye on. Should oil rebound, especially in the OIH, the larger names, ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, some of the smaller names. We'll see if there's a kickback in those smaller names. So let's run through a little bit of on the syndicate side. We have AA. Selling 36 million shares of common stock. ALLY, automatic common stock shelf. PTBI, 3.5 million shares secondary priced at $4. TNK is selling 20 million shares of Class A common stock. And of course, we have Juno, the IPO that's set for this morning. Currently priced at $24. So we'll see where that opens. So as market is open, we thank you for joining us today. Let's take a quick peek at where S&P futures are. They are up 1 in the S&P futures, currently at 2060.5. So again, near the low of the morning. So we'll see should that should that continue. We'll see how that progresses into the trading day. Also, we have oil at higher by $1.61 at $55.98. So a little bit below that's 56. And also gold still up $2.80 at 1197.6. We'll see if that attraction to that 1200 level will be there for the rest of the day and coming into the holiday season. Again, few notes here. Keep an eye on the dollar and the euro. If weakness in euro continue, we may see some strength in the dollar, certainly with the ruble activity there. Also, keep in mind this is a shorter trading. It will be a lower volume trading day for the rest of the day into the holiday season. Thank you for joining us on Unusual Activity, powered by Financial Juice.